I was going to say an old friend of mine, but no, because I'm always going to be that much older than her. So when I say old friend, that makes me like really old. So I'll just say a good friend of mine is in our studio this morning. Mike Johnson's still here as well, and that's not exactly just serendipitous. There is a connection, which we're going to explain. But Deb Yergen is here. Deb, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Always great to be here.
You are here, A, because you're good peeps and can hang out anytime you want. But B, you have a new book out. Grace Knows Your Name, 30 Days of Thanksgiving by Debra Yergen. Got a copy right here. We also have several that we're going to be giving away. Tell us about your book, the inspiration, and what it all has to do with that guy right next to you.
Well, the book came about because we all need grace. When we think about Thanksgiving, we think about gratitude, but grace and gratitude really go hand in hand. And I felt called to write this book. I felt called to put this message out there. And so when it came out, Susan Richmond from Inklings came to me and said, I would like to give the profits, the proceeds of this, to feeding someone here in the Valley through the Union Gospel Mission. And so every book that is sold through Inklings in November, the full profit, $2.75, is going to go to the Union Gospel Mission to feed a person, families, thousands of families, perhaps. That's what we're hoping for.
Outstanding. All right. How do you, when you talk about grace, what does grace mean to you?
Grace is sacrificial. We often think of grace as kindness or as being a good person or hope, but really grace is sacrificial. And to me, grace started with Christ and the sacrifice of Christ. And his grace is sacrificial, and we can extend that. We can be his hands and feet, and we can extend that and give others grace.
All right, so when you say grace knows your name, it can't be exactly replaced by the words sacrifice. Sacrifice knows your name, like it knows if you're sacrificing or you're not, or it's here to remind you that you should be, or what's the connection?
So the connection is that grace knows your name. Life is hard for a lot of people, for everyone at different times in their lives. And it's about just giving yourself and giving others the gift of letting go and giving that to your higher power. I mean, in this case, this is a Christian-based devotional, but it's really about allowing the very best to come through.
And Dave, as a Christian, what I would say is that when Jesus was making his sacrifice on the cross, winning grace for us, he did know your name, and his name was in your heart when he made that sacrifice, as was the name of every person at the Union Gospel Mission that we serve. He loves them by name. He knows them by name. And the grace that was won through that sacrifice was for them by name.
I guess I believe that. I think that when I hear the word grace, the phrase where I hear it the most, there for the grace of God go I, right? And that means, boy, if God wasn't looking out for me, if he didn't provide me a path or a way out, the negative or the bad that I'm seeing could befall me. So it's like there is a pass for me and a path for me as a result of the love coming to me. So I guess if I were to interpret this, grace knows my name. That means everybody has that same sort of pass, if you will, available to them, and the guy who provides it already knows you, right? Mm-hmm. He knows what you need, and he knows what it is that you do need, right? And so
he loves you where you are,
right? And so now this booklet it's a daily devotional kind of thing, right?
It is a daily devotional, although a lot of people will put it down on their nightstand or a kitchen table, and they'll pick it up when they need it. Uh-huh. So you can read it once a day, every day through November. You can read it through any month. You can read it throughout the year. And you can read any day in whatever order you like. It doesn't have to go in order necessarily.
Now, are the elements lifted in your book? Are they come from your personal experience? Are they stories you've been told? Or how do you come by all of these different approaches to this?
So I'm an author, and I'm on several writers groups. Yeah. And I've put calls out throughout the Valley, throughout the U.S., throughout the world. And there are people who have responded. Some I knew, some I did not know. and they shared their stories of grace, and each of those stories touched me in a way, and I identified, even if I didn't identify with the situation of that person, I identified with their feelings and maybe their fear, and overcoming that, and just welcoming grace into their lives.
You know, I think back to 1992 and now wonder if I didn't work hard enough to drive the writer out of you back then. I should have pushed harder. But you've been at this, writing and use of language has been a big part of just who and what you are, right? And you've had your own fair share of ups and downs in the world. You have plenty of opportunities to draw from grace from your life, wouldn't you say? Without giving too much away about the backstory of Deb.
I think that we all do. I
Yeah.
absolutely think that we all do. And I think that when something difficult happens, you can look at the situation, or you can look at that safety net of grace behind you. Sometimes we can't see it in the moment, but we see it when we look back and we say, oh gosh, I was just surrounded by help. I was surrounded by love. I was surrounded by grace.
You know, I got to tell you, when I got my stupid cancer diagnosis, and it's been a year now, I have never felt more cared about by people I didn't know. When I would read, "Hey, we're praying for you. We're praying for you," I felt it. I felt washed in other people asking for goodness for me. That's an amazing feeling. I have to tell you. I couldn't even hardly put into words how unique that was, and how reassuring that was, and how truly supportive it was. It was an amazing experience, and so. I guess that's other people. What happens when people decide that maybe you could get some grace and go to try to grab some for you, I guess.
And when people come into the mission just in abject brokenness, right? And they may have known that brokenness from their earliest days. They grew up in a home marred by brokenness, and they've then layered their brokenness on top of it. And they're not sure that grace is for them, right? And then they
Right.
come in, and a bunch of people they don't know. Like you were saying, you were loved by people you didn't
Yeah.
even know,
Yeah.
right? And a bunch of people that they don't even know are grace to them, because of the support of people like Deb in this community doing things like this to make the mission happen. It changed you, and it changes them too. And there are really only a few powers in the universe that change. Physicists say basically everything's trending to entropy, right? Everything's wearing down. It's just the nature of the place, right? There are really only a couple of forces that change anything, and grace or love, the grace of God, the love of God, is the preeminent one, and it changed you in that moment, and it's what changes folks at the mission. But it happens because people who've been touched by grace do things like what Deb's doing to grace, and what Inklings is doing, to pay that grace forward. And I think the grace continues to live as we pay it forward to others.
I think that's an excellent point.
that's right.
And you wanted to make sure that we made the point about small businesses like Inklings, who through an act of their own going to be helping Mike's operation, and could be helping change those lives, and adding more names to his list of people who experienced the love of strangers, because as a child of God, we're all worthy.
Yes.
And as a result, we're going to see, who
one.
knows. So you want to make sure that people know about being invested in their community on businesses. Tell us about that.
So I was bringing up Small Business Saturday. It comes up, after Black Friday, after Thanksgiving, and Inklings has 13 employees, so they're supporting the community that way. But they are just one example of the many small businesses in this community that then can turn around and invest in organizations that are still helping the community. And so it's really important that as we look around, we have so many options of where to get goods, but that we look at those places that are investing in the community, because it really does make a huge difference, not just in the moment, but in many moments to come.
I also want to say
This isn't the only way they're helping the mission too. We get a lot of donated books, and we don't just want to, send them off to get recycled or whatever. So they actually take some of them, resell them, and then give us store credit to be able to order books that we use, like Bibles and other curriculum at the mission.
Sure.
And so Inklings is just such a great business. I just would encourage everyone into that store. It's a great store.
You gotta go
My
in the
kids
store.
love being in that
Just
store.
walk around in there. It's
but
awesome.
as a business, I mean, they really are paying the grace forward in so many ways.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great book. I'm being quiet here because I've been just reading it, and we're giving 3 away, okay? Because I'm taking 1 home. But I love
That's
how
not
you
showing much grace, Lance.
Sorry. So, you're right. Someday the perfect love and will of God will prevail. But for now, life is not fair. Good things happen to broken people, and bad things happen to those who sincerely try their best. And that's what grace is all about. Man, good stuff. Great book. Pick this up, folks.
Glad to have you in,
Yeah,
Deb.
really.
Inklings, they are, of course, over
Very well
there
done.
in the Chalet Mall shopping area
right.
there off
That's
of
right.
56th.
Yeah.
Super nice people. One of the most helpful stores I think I've been in. If they don't have what you want, they'll track it down. And, I mean, they just really go to work for you. So we got about 30 seconds. What's next off the pen of Deb Yergen? What are you working on?
Well, I have 2 more books coming out next year. I have a trilogy that's a fictional trilogy called the Gift of Grace series. Not related, but a fictional series. And so in January, The Bench is coming out, and in May, The Gathering, which is the conclusion, is coming out to the trilogy.
Well, Lance and I, in our athletic career, we spent a lot of time on the bench, so we probably can relate to that book. I don't know if it's about that, but
You know what? It's actually a story that started in Yakima. It started with a man who was homeless on a bench, and it ended up with a veterinarian that's connected in through a pet emergency hospital. And I'll just leave it at that.
Wow,
But
interesting. All right. Deb, thank you so much. So let's get out there. And this is the month of November, which is tomorrow. So let's get to Inklings. These would be great gifts for your family members. You want to, there's what do you get for somebody who either needs everything or needs nothing at either end of the spectrum? I think this book works just fine. Thank you very much. And the fact that everybody who helps you out, Inklings, by way of that, is helping out Mike and the Union Gospel Mission. Well played.
thank you.
Good to see you as always.
Great to see you.